guys couldn't just visualize this, but all right. There you go. You see the star's angle is less than that of the sun. It has nothing to do with distance at all. The star could be closer, farther away.
What?
The star could be closer, farther away. It's irrelevant. It's all about the angle.
What the hell is this diagram showing?
But that's me on a flat Earth. There's a star and a sun. The sun's past your point to where you can see it on the horizon.
Continue the horizontal line all the way out to the sun.
What's up?
Why didn't you continue the horizontal line all the way out to the sun?
Dude, I'm not a master artist, all right?
I'm just wondering why you see the line from you to the sun.
And the sun would still be above that horizontal line, so the star must be closer than the sun, because
whatever. I'm not making any claims. It's only an angle thing
on the flat Earth. They have, by definition, the sun has to be above that horizontal line on the flat Earth.
You could ask this, Jeremy. If you carried that line out to where it hit the sun, that would imply that the sun went through the surface of the Earth, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Is that the problem? Is that what I draw it?
Step one in communicating with Jeremy on this, the angle that you're referring to, that you're calling less, that is the angle between your line of sight and what, Jeremy? The horizontal or the vertical?
Horizontal.
The angle to the sun is greater than the angle to the star when the sun is lower out of view.
The sun's now past the horizon. We can't see this. And this guy that I smoked, the sun was past the horizon. It had already set.
Less.
So the star is then closer than the sun.
So you put a protractor on the ground, get your level, you put a protractor on the ground. You can see the angle to the star, obviously, because you could see the star, and obviously you can't see the sun, so.
Yeah, because the sun is below the horizon, because the Earth is a globe. But
on your flat
Earth model, the sun has to be above the plane.
The sun has disappeared into the horizon. I wouldn't say below. You're presupposing shit.
No, we've got continuous sunlight. We've got continuous sunlight around the Earth. There's continuous sunlight somewhere.
The only thing we know for a fact, this is I didn't do no presuppositions or suppose anything. The only thing we know is that the sun has now disappeared into the horizon. Whether it's gone above, below.
Making a presupposition.
If you say it's gone below, now you're presupposing shit.
No,
all we know is
you're
for a fact.
Already making a presupposition.
No, the sun disappeared into the horizon. That's not a presupposition.
Yes, it is.
We can see it. What are you talking about? You guys?
It's a presupposition because you haven't given any mechanism that it's able to do that by.
Yeah.
I don't need the mechanism. You can see it.
Well, then if you don't have a mechanism, you're presupposing that it does it.
Are you ready?
I mean, in the globe model,
everyone can see
why the sun disappears.
Are you guys on drugs today or what? Everyone can see that the sun disappears into the horizon. It's a no-brainer.
Yes, and we know the reason for that. We know the reason for that, Jeremy, but you haven't.
How are you talking about making a presupposition when I say the sun disappears into the horizon? We all see that every day.
On the model below the horizon.
You guys are straight up bugging today.
Which is what it obviously does when you watch it. It sinks below the horizon. There's no disappearing. There's no disappearing to a vanishing point, which we would expect. There is no indication that it's doing that at all. And the question I really wanted to ask is, what if I've got a star on the horizon? Why isn't the sun blocking it?
What's your question?
So if I've got a star at the same angle as the sun, yeah. So I've got a star that is on the horizon, where the sun sinks, sets below the horizon. And I see that star. If the Earth was flat, why is that star not being obscured by the sun?
Yeah, do you have a whiteboard or a paper or something? You have to draw this out for me.
So
I don't understand.
No. Take your star.
No, draw it out for me. Draw it out like you guys.
I'm just going to use your diagram to explain it. It's very simple. So take the star you've drawn, put it at the same angle as the sun.
You want the star and the sun in the same line of my eyesight?
Yep.
Then you can't.
The sun is now set, and I can see that star.
Well, the locations of the sun and the star aren't the same, obviously. Different locations.
But why is it not being obscured?
It's a different location, dude.
Couldn't we go? Couldn't we stand like right below the star and look up 90 degrees and see whether?
I mean, you can do whatever you want.
The sun is above you further away, or what? I'm not sure. We can tell how far away it is by that.
It's a really piss poor argument, Jeremy. It really is.
All right.
Yeah, and it's not supported by observation.
You guys just been talking a whole bunch of nonsense this morning.
All right.
So 1 second, Joe. What have I said that's nonsense? Name one thing that I've mentioned.
Not you specifically, but your boy there with the angle thing and
that'd be me. That'd be me. So what nonsense? So what nonsense did I say, Jeremy?
Hold on, I wasn't done with the nonsense. And you're talking about making a presupposition when I say the sun disappears.
You're not done with your nonsense.
And you're talking about making a presupposition when you say the sun. When I say the sun disappears into the horizon, that's no presupposition there. That's what we all observe every day.
Yes, it is. It's a presupposition on your part because you can't give any mechanism by which it does that.
You don't need a mechanism. We see it every day.
Yes, you do.
You're out of control.
Not really.
You are. You're totally out of control.
So, would you take a biblical model of what the sun does?
Dude, I'm not into presupposing how the sky works. That's your guys' thing. That's how we got into this mess.
Well, no, it's not a again, what I'm pointing out is flaws. You think the sun goes away to a vanishing point, and that's why we can't see it. Is that correct, Jeremy?
I mean, there's stuff at play that I'm not going to speculate on.
How far away is the vanishing point when we talk about perspective, Jeremy?
I don't know. I mean, if you're talking about in a painting or in real life, you got atmospheric conditions, a lot of stuff.
What's the main thing that affects it?
So, according to perspective, I mean, you were taught perspective in school, no doubt. How far away is the vanishing point in those diagrams that you drew that had perspective in them?
You can see my sock in the picture I posted. Sorry, what's up?
Even when you can't see the sun with your eye anymore, you must be able to get the sun back again if you use a telescope. Because the sun...
Not even telescopes have a limit.
Above the plane.
Thank God Lemon's here. Hi, Lemon.
Hey, how you doing? Even telescopes have a limit.
Conceding. Jeremy just conceded he can't handle the heat.
The general rule is at your eye level, the top and bottom halves of your vision merge. The top half of your vision comes down to your eye level, but no further. And the bottom half of your vision comes up to your eye level, but no further, like the train tracks, leading to a sandwiching and smushing zone in the middle. So it looks like it depends on how high above the surface you are, your elevation above the surface, to see how much you can see.
No matter how powerful a telescope I use, when on the globe model, when the sun goes below the horizon, you can't bring the sun back again. And
that's not true. There are people that have brought back the sun. There are people who have brought the sun a little bit, but even the telescopes have a little bit of a limit. The camera and telescopes have a limit to the optic.
Can you show me that? Can you
Hold
actually
on.
show me that when without any increase in elevation?
Add a solar filter. Because I bet what we're going to see is lens flare.
Ah, yeah, well, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's what he's going to show us.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well, I've been looking a little bit into the optic nerve, and our optic nerve doesn't split our signals into an upper bit and a lower bit. Because if what you were saying was true, Lemon, I could stand on my head and solve the problem.
What do you mean?
Well, if the upper portion and the lower portion, if the reason things get smushed is because, the lower portion of my vision is doing the smushing, so all I need to do is stand on my head, so I'm using the upper portion of my vision, which is actually still the lower portion of my vision because we reverse the image in the brain.
I want to just say smooshing again.
The eye level is the main thing that you need to worry about. Your eye level, elevation above the limiting surface, the flat surface beneath your feet. So you can go upside down, right side up, whatever, but your eye level will maintain and still be the same.
So the problem I've got with that is, I can be 300-400 feet above the surface of the Earth, so out of all the, really shitty atmosphere. And I can look over the sea at a mountain, and no matter how good a telescope I use, if that mountain is obscured by the curve, guess what? It's going to be fucking obscured by the curve. And no instrument I use will restore it, even though I'm increasing the angular size of that object drastically.
Yeah, it would be too smushed at eye level. You'd have to get higher up to get a wider angle.
Well, no, I wouldn't need to do that if I'm using a telescope. If I'm 300 feet up and that object is being smooshed because of the angular size, if I correct that by using an optical instrument, I've now corrected the problem with the angular size, therefore I should see more. I don't.
Lemon's right.
You haven't corrected it enough. It's still way too compressed at eye level.
Yeah,
it's
you
pretty
gotta make
silly
an
argument. It's a pretty silly argument because say at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, all I need to do is tilt my head upwards a little bit and put the sun in the center of my vision. Is the upper half and the bottom half of my eye now smushing that sun so that it disappears? Nope.
Your eye level will still be maintained though, and things will still compress toward eye level. Especially if the sun is going parallel over the flat plane. So the mechanism is still there.
So why don't those mountains disappear even though they're at eye level too?
They do as well. Eventually they compress into the horizon if they're far enough away.
And yet when I'm at elevation, all the mountains below me are below eye level. They don't disappear either.
How are you establishing eye level again?
So how do things get smushed?
As far as I can tell, when you look down a hallway, things compress into your eye level, which is what the mountains would be expected to do also. Unless you're talking about weird refractive effects over a flat
But
plane.
things don't disappear down a hallway, Lemon.
The general mechanism is still there. Things compress.
But things don't disappear down a hallway, Lemon. They don't.
The general behavior is still there.
So I'm interested why I was server muted. Didn't have a hot mic, wasn't talking over anybody, just got randomly server muted.
Oh, it wasn't random.
No, I know, it's some idiot fucking cunt. That's what it is.
Anyway,
that poor excuse of a rent boy. And yes, it was. Sorry, Jeremy, go on.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm ranting and that's not productive. And unlike Humo, I'm not a cunt. So carry on, mate.
So Lemon's right here. You need to make an angle change to the thing you're trying to observe. Otherwise, you have all kinds of... Like I said, you could put your eye low down to a chessboard and you won't even be able to see the squares until you make that angle change. The squares aren't disappearing over a curve. You just need to make an angle change.
The squares also have no height.
But it's just a 2D representation. Technically, the squares do have a certain amount of 2D representation height. Otherwise, you wouldn't see a 2D image. And to your eye, that is indistinguishable from a 3D image given the same height versus the 2D squares that you're looking at. It's indistinguishable to your eyes.
I'm calling word salad nonsense on that when you say 2D height.
Yeah. It may not have length, width, and depth, length, width, and depth, but it still has enough length up and down for a 2D representation in your eye. And depending on, what's being represented, it's going to be indistinguishable from, say, a 3D square with the same, length and width, but, just more depth, in a different direction.
Are we supposed to make sense out of that?
Mm-hmm. Basically, your eye is going to see a 2D representation that will be indistinguishable from, say, a 3D object.
Right.
It's going to represent it the same way. So your objection is immaterial, your objection is immaterial because your eye is still seeing something with a certain amount of 2D height representation. So the principle is still there yet again. You still have something that's converging towards your eye level, over the chessboard, over the flat plane, over the horizon.
You called him out for making nonsense on that last statement. He makes nonsense in all of his statements.
Well, again, I've got the problem if the issue is angular size.
Oh, it's an angle. No, it's not. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it is an angular size issue. What you're saying is we can't see it because it's smushed and we can't resolve it. That's angular size, unless you want to invoke something else.
It's just the angle of the angle of attack. What do they call it?
It's the angle relative to your eye level as it smushes into your eye level horizon.
So that's an angular size issue.
Relative to the eye level horizon.
Yeah, but it's an angular size issue, isn't it?
I couldn't be wrong.
So make the angle relative to your eye level up and down.
Just what is the eye level horizon?
Your eye level is your elevation above the limiting flat surface.
But what's this eye level horizon that you said before? You mentioned
the horizon would be at eye level. The horizon would be at eye level, and things would converge at eye level.
But demonstrably, the horizon is not at eye level.
That's why I was asking how you were determining the eye level before. I think what you're relying off of is bad optics, bad curving.
What you're relying on is bad nonsense because you said you said eye level horizon before. What did you mean by that?
The horizon at eye level.
But the eye level, the horizon is never at eye level.
Surface over the flat plane.
But the horizon is never at eye level.
The way that you're determining it is faulty. You're determining it using curving collimating lenses and refraction. That's not going to do.
I can do it without using a lens at all.
How do you determine it?
Just using a water level.
A water level can still deceive you.
Yeah.
How?
Eye levels are observer specific.
So I guess now that means that all of you flat earthers that are using water levels to try and show that the earth is level, it's a waste of time because they can deceive you. Done. No more water levels can be used any time.
But you can take a grid of graph paper that's going straight to the left and the right and line it up with the horizon. The moment you orient the paper toward the horizon and rotate it, those same lines that were going straight left and right are now going to appear to ramp up and down past the horizon just by reorienting the paper and rotating the paper alone. That's what's happening with your water level. Your water level at first appears straight left and right, but the moment you orient them toward the horizon, they're going to appear to ramp up and down despite not changing level or elevation at all. Perspective is very tricky. Perspective is very tricky, and the moment that water level attains any sort of width to the representation toward the horizon, it's going to appear to ramp up and down despite not changing elevation. So you really need to look into perspective, dude. How it's represented.
Change topics, Mom.
The thing is, you're going by a water level, but you're forgetting that it also is represented as a 3D object in your eye. So eventually, even that flat water level will ramp up and down past the horizon, even though it's flat and level. Just like that graph paper, the moment you reorient it and rotate it to the left or the right.
But nothing actually ramps up and down, does it, Lemon?
It would, because these lines are 3D objects as well in the real world. These lines are going to be represented as 3D objects with length, width, breadth, and depth approaching up or down past the horizon as well. They're not these flat 2D objects that have no ramping. They're 3D objects with a width. And so eventually those lines with thickness are going to ramp up and down, even if they're level.
But they don't, because if we use the principles of geometric optics, which are well known and well understood and can be demonstrated in a laboratory quite simply, that any image that's formed on the retina, we can trace those rays back to where they originated from. And they don't originate from some ramped up position, do they?
There's a couple principles we may need to look into. Namely, the image being made of lines. This notion of a 2D line with no width is going to be problematic, since most stuff in real life has thickness, length, width, and breadth, including these lines. So the moment these lines have thickness, they're going to have the potential to ramp up and or down past the horizon. Just like those water levels you were talking about. They're not these 2D lines. They're 3D representations, which are going to have width and potentially ramp.
Nice work, Lemon. I'm glad you jumped in there. You're a little bit more familiar with this than I am.
He's just better. He's just better at spouting nonsense than you are, Jeremy.
This is why I can't do a one-on-one debate. I need other people to back me up sometimes.
Get backed up though.
I do better as like a hype man.
But you didn't get backed up. You had a moron spouting nonsense. Well, I guess that is backing you up. Love to know what motivates you, because I'm pretty convinced you're just a Poe.
So this is a picture taken at 3.5 miles using a Nikon P900, flat Earth camera of choice, as Rob would say. And we can see that level of detail. Yeah. So all of a sudden you're saying if the horizon was at the bottom of that picture, you're saying all of a sudden I can't see anything. To me,
it's a different angle.
Is utter fucking bollock.
It's a different angle, Dross.
Resolution, Mom.
We're just looking at resolution at the moment.
Oh.
We're just looking at what you can see at 3.5 miles with a P900.
You have a geographical horizon, a hump of land that appears to be obstructing what's beyond the true horizon that you'd have over the flat surface beyond.
Wait, if I can see their shoes, and their shoes represent to the naked eye probably much less than 0.02.
Much less.
The camera seems to be able to pull those shoes out. I can see those shoes. So it seems like 0.02 is not a restriction for different optic systems.
It varies depending on the wavelength of light you're dealing with.
Same wavelength, those shoes have the same wavelengths bouncing off them.
0.02 is a rough estimate, really.
Well, this is like
the eye of the observer
this is probably like 0.002.
That's a rough guide.
0.002. Yeah, so we're not talking rough. We're talking orders of magnitude.
Depends on the wavelength, the conditions, refraction, the
I should be able to see these people standing on their side. I should see their shoes.
There's a lot of stuff that varies it.
So if they're standing 3.5 miles away, I should be able to see their shoes. I do like your Professor Monotone mode right now that you're in. You know, it's part of your act.
Here's the type of resolution we can get with the P900 flat Earth camera of choice. At 8 miles.
Shit, I can still see approximately where their shoes are. It's a little blurry though. It's a little turbid.
And that's through some horrible atmosphere as well. It's very, very wobbly. So again, you know, to me, is that the fact that I can see someone's shoes there, is that now, you know, a smaller angular resolution problem just because it's on top of a mountain, or why is it less if I'm now looking down at it towards a horizon? You know, again, this doesn't make any sense if I can restore the angular resolution of those objects. And when you see it zoomed out, you can just about see there might be someone on top of that mountain. Loch Lomond,
Everything
by the way, beautiful part of Scotland.
together. Angular resolution at your eye level is just the top and bottom half of your vision merging together into a line. It's the same principle, just at eye level.
No difference with a camera.
But that is at his eye level. That's the level of his eye looking out. You're talking about looking
at a
down towards the
geographical
horizon.
obstruction. You're not looking at two planes of vision merging with the top and bottom half. You're looking at a geographical obstruction. You've changed.
Yeah, I'm looking at a ridge where the sky and the ridge meet. So surely at the point where the sky and the ridge meet, I should see the same thing.
When we're talking about a horizon, we're talking about two planes of vision merging, the top and bottom half merging into a line, not a geographical obstruction in the way.
I mean, you do know a thing, right?
It doesn't matter what I look at, there's always going to be a top half and a bottom half to my vision. So why don't things disappear no matter what I look at whatever angle I look at? Because whatever I look at, there's always a top half and a bottom half.
You have a geographical obstruction in the way, the land. You don't have two flat planes merging.
How would it get in the way?
Because you're probably lower in elevation.
Yeah, and what you were describing a minute ago was on a flat plane, so you're not below the flat plane. So what are you talking about?
You would be above the flat plane, but as a 2D object represented in your vision, it would eventually ramp up towards your eye level and merge. You're not dealing with a flat surface here. You're dealing with a higher elevation of land getting in the way.
Well, I hear your jerk, but that doesn't make any sense to what Foolish just said. Did you actually listen to what Foolish said? I mean, you might want to try and answer that question.
What I'm talking about is two flat planes of vision merging, not a geographical obstruction in the way.
Again, like I said, no matter what you look at, you're going to have two halves of your vision. Why don't those two halves combine to smush whatever I look at and make it disappear?
Eventually, just depends on how close you are to the obstruction, the land in this case, and how low down you are. But when you're talking about two flat planes,
who said anything about me looking at anything on the land?
You get a horizon. So you're lower than this land that's obstructing your vision with the camera, and it's getting in the way first. Now, if you get far enough away, eventually you'll have a flat horizon anyway, but you're too close to this obstruction of land that's in the way.
This is as useless as talking to a pig. You know what? I'm going to say it right now. You're right. Go away. Be happy with your life. Live in your little imaginary world. Isn't it cute? And a grown man playing flat earth.
This one even better. This is what you can do with a decent camera, Lemon. It's 1.6 miles.
That looks like that's got like decent resolution. Like even if that was sitting up, I would guess you'd even see the little bottom yellow tangs on it and stuff.
So this is why I think your argument's really bad, Jeremy. Because that's what you can do with optics.
The first half of your eyes merges into the lower half of your vision with the ocular visual cortex. So does anybody want to talk about my boat?
Oh, come on now, Chemo. Lemon doesn't
Except,
explain anything. He just says your eyes magically merge things together for no good reason.
Don't talk to him, man. Come on. Talk about my boat.
what, like the big kid, like the big kid that denies that things have been measured. I mean, you've just spent a whole 2 or 3 minutes claiming that nothing's been measured and that you want up-to-date measurements. Well, sorry, but we've spent the last 400, 500 years, 2,000 years measuring in all sorts of different ways by different methods by different people. And you just want to throw all that away and say nothing's been measured. But that's not right. Things have been measured. It's you that doesn't want to accept those measurements. So maybe you should go out and take measurements, not us.
I was so impressed this evening when I saw the ISS.
Yeah, I do. Well, you don't have to believe what I say I believe, but you know, you can believe something else if you want. But yeah, I do believe.
Hey, Paul.
No, we're getting down to that. You don't believe what I say I believe in now. That's what it is.
Paul, come on, let him go.
You got to pause every now and then and let someone else say something, Kimo. All right, because what I'm going to say again is that this is just you believing that we don't believe. That's all it is.
Break down. Don't give it to him. Don't fight anymore.
Well, it's difficult, Chemo. Chemo, it's difficult for us to believe that you actually believe the Earth is flat, but a lot of us will still interact with you as if you do. Why can't you do the same? Oh, well, now you're just lying. Forget it. Oh, so you do make claims.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that you don't believe that I believe what I say I believe.
Well, that's what we do, Chemo, and now you're just being silly.
The thing with their measurements. Yeah,
Well, so now you're straying into telling other people what they think, Chemo. Let's not do that.
Chemo doesn't understand it. At least most what I've seen here is not talking to Chemo, but are you done? Can you breathe? Thank you. Now, I don't want to talk to you, but yeah, what Chemo is failing to understand is that most of us in here have actually done some experiments, tests to validate. That's okay, but you were just babbling.
But Chemo, you said yourself you weren't having a conversation. We do.
the traveling.
You're talking at us. You weren't having a conversation, and you said so yourself.
Yes, they would doubt them. They people often try to confess to crimes they didn't commit. So they doubt, the police would doubt that person that just came in and confessed to a crime.
And then what would happen is the police would look for evidence, wouldn't they? And when they've got the evidence, they would make their judgment. That's like us, you know, we go and we look for the evidence and we make our judgment based on the evidence. So you guys have to bring us some evidence. Yeah, that's right. That's what we're dealing with right now. We're saying to you, we don't believe you because you haven't brought us any evidence. You're just literally coming into the police station saying the earth is flat. Believe me, aren't you? That's what you're doing. You're literally doing that. You're asking us to believe that the earth is flat. You're literally coming into the police station saying, I've committed a crime. The earth is flat. Believe me. But you're not bringing any evidence, are you? So why should we believe you? No, but we're bringing all that evidence with us, aren't we?
Hello. It's gone very quiet.
Something else to say as well then. Yeah, use the ones bring.
We were acknowledging the crime of saying that the earth is flat because you've got no evidence.
Like you're bringing the hysteria of, oh, it's a globe, and then now, like I say, because we're the ones who are doing the investigation, it's like, well, we don't believe. Like, do you believe that it's a globe? So we're asking you for the evidence, and you're just giving a story. So that's the same thing as if someone just came into the police station and said, oh, here's a story of how I did it, and then it checks out that, well, there is no, you wasn't even there.
We're not, are we? We're bringing you the measurements, we're bringing you the pictures, we're bringing you the observed phenomenon, we're bringing all of that stuff with us. We've got the evidence, don't we?
No, but I had
You just keep turning a blind eye to it, saying it's not there.
I mean, regardless of whether you believe that evidence or not, it is evidence.
Again, see, before, I used to believe that you believed it. So, you know, that we would say, oh, I believe you believe that. But now, again, do you really believe that the Earth is a globe? Like, how can anyone be sure that you really...
It's a little bit pointless going down that argument, isn't it? Because then all I'm going to do is say, I don't believe that you don't believe that I believe.
No, but my point is not just saying it like...
I don't believe that you believe that
I wasn't saying it in a childish way.
But we still talk to you as if you're a flat earther.
Yeah, but I'm not saying... I
don't believe you have a point, Kimo.
Yeah, I was just analysing the situation, saying that why it seems, you know, there's not an influx of flat earthers. Because I feel that they don't believe that you believe. That's what I feel.
I don't believe the globe is a lie, as you claim. And you've never demonstrated it to be a lie. You just act as though that's been substantiated, that the globe is a lie, and you proceed from there.
But yeah, but I tried to put myself in your position as a
I do like that one little comment that you put in there, Kimo, and I'd like to draw some attention to it. You admit that there is no influx of flat earthers.
No, so like they don't come in like you would like them to, right? But I think why that's happening, I mean, you will get some, still will happen, but I just mean the reason why I think a lot of the flat earthers are like, they can't believe it. Like, because again, we're talking about just normal, not internet things, just normal things in the real world. You wouldn't do this. So if I met you in the streets and I said, hey, what shape of the earth? You say it's a ball. I say, let's go out and prove it right now together. You know, you would still give me the same, well, there's somebody somewhere out there who may have done it, right? Who has the measurement. And that's, I've seen that, I've done that, I've been out there, and I was out with AB Science. I said, prove it right now. You're a scientist, right now. Oh, I can't do it now, can I? Don't, you know? I'm like, well, where? Where could you go? Wow, you know, it was all this and that. So,
and he gave you reasons, right?
What'd you say?
And he gave you reasons, right?
No, because again, I could show that the Earth right now, I could pour water on the flat surface right now, and that water won't curve. It would.
Could you prove it's not curved over a foot?
Again, you're extending the claim here. Right now, the Earth we're standing on, that we are standing on right now, is not curving, unless you're on a hill.
The water doesn't curve over 1 foot?
Don't know. Again, you're making the claims. I'm saying that the Earth that we're standing on right now, under our feet, I can pour water under my feet, and it will level out horizontally.
Is it flat? Is it flat, or is it you don't know, as you just said?
There's no curvature to it, so it's flat.
But you said you don't know.
I don't know what.
You don't know that it's flat.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said we've poured the water on the floor.
I don't know. You said you don't know, Kimmo.
I didn't say that. I could show.
That's the honest thing you've said all day.
Oh, for goodness sakes! I could show to AB Science right now in this second. Water, the Earth where I'm standing on is flat, absolutely flat. Just pour water, and then where it's not flat, the water will show me that it's not flat.
You can't do that.
Yeah, right in this second. And I asked him to prove it's a ball right now, and he couldn't.
Show me now.
How do you?
Show me right now. Show me right now, Kimmo. I want water over a 3 mile.
What, you're going to go on camera with me now, yeah? Alright, fine, you're going to go on camera.
Right now,
fine, I just said. If you go on camera with me right now, I'll go into my kitchen.
Against you too,
just keep over talking me. I said, fine, put the cameras on.
Well, you overtalk everyone, Kimmo.
You asked me a question and I'm answering it. Let's put the cameras on. I'll show you my kitchen. I'll pour water on the floor, and I'll prove that the floor.
3 miles, Kimmo. 3 miles. Flat. Show me.
3 miles? What are you talking about? 3 miles? Have you measured over 3 miles?
I'm happy with his safety demonstration, but he's got to prove it to a micrometer.
What, you're saying that further than my kitchen, it's starting to curve beyond my kitchen?
I want you in your sink. I want you to prove that within 1 micrometer.
No. I said the Earth where I'm standing on is flat, horizontal, and level. So if I pour water on the floor and it's flat,
prove that it's level.
I don't speak. I'm going to pour water on the floor right now.
Okay.
And then we're going to show that the water is not curving around the exterior.
To what precision?
Perfectly flat, 100%.
Okay, perfectly flat. So
perfectly flat. Water will tell me when it's horizontal, yeah.
You can measure it by half a micrometer.
What measure? What measurement? What tool? That arbitrary tool that you made the numbers up is going to tell me that this is flat or not.
Perfect.
What tool?
It looks flat.
What tool are you using? Is it called a flat tool?
Chemo is the tool I'm using.
Okay, so we're going to use the water.
But you got to use a tool to measure it. So
what tool are you going to? What tool? What's the tool called flat?
Let's see. They can machine a surface to 3 millionths of an inch.
What does that even mean?
So I would say that put it over a machine surface and measure that to 3 millionths of an inch precision on either side. That it's the exact same height as the middle.
But then there could be another machine that could show it even more flat. And then another machine, and another machine, and another machine.
It's got to be more level than that machine surface.
Well, it's hard to believe, Moya. Water is the machine, right?
And it's not a machine, it's machined. Meaning it's been surfaced.
The point was, anyway, is I think what's happening is... Because the reason why I brought up these cults yesterday, because I'm starting to see it a little bit now. I didn't think it was like that. But the behaviour and the mental the mental situation that's going on is like that. And so what my point of what yesterday is like, nobody bothers people in those cults, do they? So if you've got someone who believes in, like, I don't know, My Little Pony or vampires, they just stay in the cult. Very rare that you'll find someone outside questioning them about their belief. So what's happening is you know, with the ball earthers especially, like labelled globe earthers, not the general public, just I'm a glober. So people are like, well, they're globers. They have like a belief, just like they're in a group. See? And it's going to be difficult for you guys to separate yourself from like a normal person who just wants to know about the world and someone who's in like a church of some kind. So we're definitely dealing with a religious order of some kind. And
so you have a belief that it's flat. I get that.
No, that's what science tells us.
No, it's not.
Well, no, it doesn't actually.
Science
doesn't tell us it's flat. You're right.
Discussion with somebody who won't discuss it. He just wants to monologue.
Yeah, I'm not. I was just coming off the back of what Lemon and Jeremy were talking about.
You just want to monologue.
No, we're talking about just talking about it. I'm not saying anything in particular like challenging. Just talking about it.
You're talking, Kimo.
Making a couple of statements here. All right, what's the difference then, Kurt?
Or ask a question and wait for a response.
All right, let me ask a question. What's the difference between what the Globers do and any other cult?
I'll tell you the difference right now. Goodbye, Kimo.
The what? He said goodbye. Oh. Yeah, I mean, again, it's well hard. Again, it's like you don't know what you're in until you point it out, right? Unless someone points it out, you don't really then you have to ask yourself: is that me? Am I really in this kind of cult thing, right? It's been bandied about word cult, but I had a look at online at those of some strange cults around the world, and just like a religious order. And then, like I say, people just because when you ask about the flat earthers, where are they? They're just living their lives. They're just out there doing their everyday thing. They're not part of groups like flat earth groups. They're just living. They're just out there doing their thing. Whereas the Globers have formed a society.
Cute little story.
Well, I mean, again, time will tell. The proof is in the pudding. All those kind of things, and we're in it now, aren't we? We're seeing it right now. Is that there are defenders of the globe, of this idea, who come together, who gather, yes, in one place. Go over the mantras, the rhetorics. Got your gravity, your refraction. Now you got all. I mean, again, the gas pressure. This shouldn't have gone on this long. Gas pressure to a vacuum. Again, we all know that cannot be demonstrated, for example. But you still believe it somehow. It's a thing to you. Do we? I mean, that if someone said, let's take Nathan. Now he would go crazy at you. Whereas I'm thinking they can't believe that. He thinks that you believe that. And I'm thinking now you can't believe that. We know that's not right? You can't take a spray can, pierce that spray can, and have the gas just stay in the can without going to the low pressure. We know that. Normal. So, again, who believes that? Right? It's very normal to go with the scientific and again, you will cause frustration for people who think you actually believe that.
What are you claiming we believe, Kimo?
Just like the gas pressure that's the vacuum thing, and without the container, and it's just hard to believe that you actually believe.
Wait, hold on. You think at some point we think there's a point at which there's pressure, high pressure, and then right above that there's very low pressure or a vacuum?
Yeah, because you've got this massive area of low pressure space. Massive. next to this itty bitty witty tiny layer of atmosphere on the Earth.
Well, that's not what our model says at all,
No. But you've got space, which is massive. Yeah.
It would be the opposite of massive.
We're talking light years massive. To get to the end of space, it takes light years. Yeah, so think about all that low pressure, and then you've got this thin layer of gas around a ball, and it's not being sucked off. So it doesn't matter. Even the gradient doesn't even help you. Like I said, you've got this vast area that's should be
vast area of nothingness.
No, vast area of low pressure.
Low pressure is essentially nothing.
Yeah, so if you've got nothingness, the gas will want to go into the nothingness. They're the laws of nature. Why? Because high pressure goes to low pressure. Like, do you ever have a cup of tea? Got a cup of tea, yeah? It gets colder and colder and colder.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
So we're talking about pressure.
Yeah, we're talking about the pressure of the gas here, which is high, next to low regions of pressure. Not possible. And again, you can't believe that.
That's not the model, so there's not an issue.
That's not the model.
Yeah, the model isn't. There's a high pressure region next to a low pressure region, so there's no issue.
Yeah, but when you see those pictures from space through marble, see that area of black is low pressure and that blue area is high pressure?
No, actually, it's a gradient.
Wouldn't matter if it was a gradient or not.
Chemo, this is elementary, man. And this is, I've been around flat Earth for 2.5 years, and the whole time I've been here, I think I've only seen one thing that was an actual, legitimate objection, or that wasn't a straw man. This isn't even an argument, it's a straw man. You're arguing a position which the model doesn't even have.
What is the position? Yeah, and what's the position then? Right, there's a gradient, it gets less and less and less. You're saying it gets less and less and less and it goes into space, yeah?
Chemo, I know you've been around for a while.
I've just asked you, I said it gets less and less and less. Starts off with 14.7, that's what your model says, yeah? And it gets less and less and less, yeah?
Correct.
Okay. But none of that has been proven anyway. You don't know it's 14.75. You don't know where the pressure comes from. You don't know if you've got a gradient or not. But again, how can I believe you believe that if you're just parroting what you've just been told? How do you know it gets less and less? How do you know it's 14.75? Have you been up to 40,000 feet and tried to breathe? No, of course you ain't.
14?
But I know 14. People who have, right? We know boys and, I don't know if any girls have tried, but we know lads have been up in the air 40,000 feet, higher than, twice as high as Everest, almost, without any oxygen tanks there, 50. So how did it get less and less and less if they were able to breathe for 11 hours just fine? When usually you got 2 minutes to survive at 28,000 feet.
There's a difference between slowly being acclimated to it as a plane takes off, and as your cold body temperature goes down, you go into a hypothermic state. It's probably very similar to when a boy falls into the water and drowns and is able to be recovered 2 hours later. Do you think that boys can swim underwater for 2 hours?
There's air underwater.
Do you think that boys can live for 2 hours underwater?
There's air under there.
You believe that boys can live underwater?
Anywhere there's air, you can survive.
Okay, so do you believe that you can swim underwater for 2 hours without
If there's air, yeah, if you can find a way. If so that boy survived for 2 hours,
challenge you to do it. I challenge
if that boy survived for 2 hours, then obviously, yeah, there's air.
Okay, so you can do it. So
I didn't say I could do it. It's not a big deal. There was air. He was down there for 2 hours. He survived. Why wouldn't he? If there was no air, he would have been dead.
Well, actually, it's just like the boy underwater. If your temperature goes
I've just said to you, the boy in the water was around air, had air within it. For all we know, we don't know if he had a trapped air somewhere. We don't know what his supply was, right?
I don't know if you know, but you're talking over
But I'm saying we don't know if he had trapped air somewhere.
Oh my God, what is that? Are you showing us pressure?
Underwater?
Weird.
So 50 before Moya goes on with his story. So again, look, yeah, I get your model. 14.7 supposed to get thinner and thinner and thinner, but there's no evidence of this. Zero evidence. We can go up to above 28,000 feet, 30,000 feet. We can go way above where we've been told that there is a 1.2, 2.5 atmosphere of air, and we shouldn't be able to breathe. Now, we have evidence that contradicts your model. Right, well, hold on a second, Moyuk. 1 minute you're moaning about talking, you're not talking. Then you interrupt the conversation because you decide you want to get involved when someone else is involved. Can't you see that 50 was having a conversation?
Yeah, but you're the one who's talking.
Yeah, you're just derailing now, aren't you? That's what you're doing. You're talking about something else. We're talking about the model, what the model says.
Yeah, well, it's on screen. It's right directly in conversation what you're talking about.
I can't understand you mumbling either.
The video being played right now is directly about what you're talking about. You say you don't have evidence. There's evidence.
Yeah. So, 50. Your model has a load of contradiction. We can show at high altitudes air just the same as it is down here. You can breathe just fine, stay out there for hours on end. Showing that your model does not get thinner and thinner. So that means you've got this high pressure next to low pressure. That's the real world. Your model, I know your model says something different, but the real world, unless you've tested it yourself, 50.
Wait. So there is. So you're saying the real world, there is an area of super high pressure and then super low pressure with no barrier.
No. In the real world, we've got water pressure. Yeah. In the atmosphere, you remove the water, you remove the pressure. As I've been telling you all for many years now. So again, your model has contradictions. There's supposed to be curvature. We don't see it. We see a lot further than we're supposed to. Going up, we're supposed to have a density gradient. Again, false. That's not true. You breathe just fine at 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet. As long as you're warm, wrapped up, you're able to regulate your body temperature. And we've got the evidence for that. I can post it for you right now. See? Not just a story. It's been reported for the world to see at large, 50. Right? So again, that's the difference between when I say something and you say something. It's not about whether you believe me. You don't have to say, oh, I'm not sure if Chemo believes what he's saying. It's on the news. You see? Now, is what you're saying reported, documented? Is it anywhere for anyone to see than anywhere just your head?
Are you done?
That was to 50, yeah.
I mean, we've really got him running scared at this point.
Oh, terrifying.
Dude, you lost me. I'm sorry. You rambled a little bit. My daughter came in here.
So what it is there, 50, everything I cite is worldwide known. It's documented, reported in the news. It's a big deal. But whatever you tell me is not. We can never find actual demonstrations, any video, any documents, any experiments, nothing to support your claim about the atmosphere gets thinner and thinner, and it's because of gravity. Where's the evidence for this?
What about David Blaine Ascension? Didn't you see that recently?
David Blaine Ascension? I didn't see that. No, what was that all about?
Like a YouTube live stream.
You saw it.
I didn't watch. I heard about it. I didn't watch it though. It's just magic. So why am I going to watch it? Not science.
Well, it wasn't magic. He does like stunts, right? He does kind of physical.
Come on, 50.
And he does magic.
You see what I mean? You're going to magic when we're talking about real science.
No, Chemo. He does physical stunts.
For goodness sakes.
And I'm just saying this was something recent. I'm not using this as like rock hard evidence. I'm just
saying, what are you talking about then?
If you're saying there's okay, well I've got a video from a flat earther who put a barometer on a camera with a flat lens that took a balloon up to 120,000 feet and you can see the barometric pressure monitor the whole way up.
Yeah. And then when they showed the documents, the printout, it didn't match. An old video.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
Well, that's fine. It's on Nathan's show. He called it out ages ago.
I mean, Chemo, you're the only person I've ever heard in my entire life say that you don't think air pressure decreases as you go up.
Well, prove it then.
I
Video that
can't
was
prove
posted a
something to
minute
somebody
ago.
so silly. I mean, you're basically telling me the sky isn't blue, Chemo.
I'm asking you to prove it. Stop giving me your stories and show me that as you go higher and higher, the atmosphere gets thinner and thinner. You can't breathe. Show me that. Because at 40,000 feet, where it's meant to be 2.5 psi, you're not going to breathe if the atmosphere is 2.5 psi.
How do you know?
How do I know? Because they've tested astronauts in vacuum chambers where they've lowered the pressure and they can't breathe.
You believe the
I've seen where they
now?
put hands into vacuum chambers, lowered the vacuum, and their hands started to suck away because there was no air. They could not breathe.
Well, 2.5 psi air wouldn't be no air.
It's not enough pressure for you to breathe in.
So you believe the astronaut testing in this case?
No.
That's interesting. No, you don't believe it.
No, I believe that they tested the suits, yeah, and they failed it, yeah. But they didn't have them into space. Of course they would have to test it, right?
There's a video.
I'm just saying your source here is NASA.
Yeah, but again, that's just a belief. That doesn't change what is in reality, right? About the atmosphere getting thinner. We don't have any evidence for that. Where's the evidence for that?
Right there.
There's nothing wrong with using NASA as a hostile witness. Perfectly
video
fine.
that was just posted by Flashburn and myself.
So, 50 goes back to what I was just saying at the beginning. How does any flat earther believe you believe it? You're just parroting what you've been told, right? You're like, oh, wow, I can't believe that you should be able to show, I can show you right now, instantly, 40,000 feet, okay, where the atmosphere is exactly the same as it is down here. People can breathe just fine. Whereas you can't show me where the atmosphere gets less and less and less. It's just a story.
What makes mine a story and yours not a story, Chemo?
Because we've tested your claim. We've been told that the higher you go...
That's your story.
Oh, you want the video? Okay, no worries. Let me get that for you. I'll get that for you right now.
Like I said, Chemo, you might as well be telling me the sky isn't blue, grass isn't green, my dick isn't 12 inches. Like, it's just ridiculous. I don't even know what to say.
I don't believe you believe that. Again, telling me another story.
I don't believe that you don't believe me.
It's not about what I believe, is it? It's about what the reports are and what the information is. There we go.
Like, I'm not being... Like I said, you're the only person the only flat earther I've ever encountered that doesn't believe.
Well, I'm ahead of the game.
Air pressure decreases.
Both Flat Earth and Globe Earth got this wrong, okay? Because there is no container and there is no gravity. And yeah, I was the one that brought it to your attention. Now, instead of trying to tell me I'm the only one who told you this, prove to me there is pressure. Show it.
Well, okay, I'll send you a measurement device. Okay.
Okay. But again, your device contradicts reality. We can go up there where there is no air and we can still breathe.
What did that video that I posted and you've ignored? Dr. 50, if you want to pass it on to him because he seems to be ignoring me. But the video that I posted a second ago seems to address that very point.
But can you show me, Dr. 50, as you increase in altitude, the temperature reduces, the pressure, reduces, and it's difficult to breathe? Can you?
Yeah, of course. I told you I saw a video. Moyak just posted a video. You have to forgive me. I think it's Moyak. I'm a little busy at the moment.
Yeah, so you should be.
Give me about 5 minutes and I'll get around to looking at that video. But like I said, Chemo, I don't even know what to say to you. You might as well be telling me the sky isn't blue and the grass isn't green.
No. It's not about... It's your claim, remember? You claim there's pressure. So I'm asking you for your proof of your claim.
Well, okay. Well, in a minute, I'll post you a video from a flat earther who sent a balloon up to 120,000 feet with a barometric pressure measurement device on it that was live reading the entire way up.
How do you know it wasn't reading the temperature?
Do what?
How do you know it wasn't reading the temperature?
Because it had a temperature.
Because of the units, Chemo.
Okay. But how do you know that it wasn't detecting only temperature?
It had a thermometer and a barometer.
I mean, that's like telling me, how do I know, my ruler isn't detecting temperature or pressure? Like, I don't even know what to say to that.
Your ruler is detecting temperature or pressure. How does that work?
That's kind of what you're asking. Like we have
No,
a device
I'm asking
here
how
that
did your
specifically-
device know it was the difference between pressure and temperature?
Well, pressure is is basically the force over a surface area, a hypothetical surface area.
Yeah.
Temperature is something completely different.
How does your device know that?
Through engineering.
Okay, how did you
Knowledge
engineer?
that-
How did you engineer it that way?
You have a force sensor.
You have a sensor, so you've got sensors that sense
like-
what?
Force.
Like basically a quartz or like a little, you could just think of it as a little spring, right? You evacuate a volume, a tiny volume, and inside that volume you have something that's spring-like and a surface that can move up and down essentially. And you can detect the pressure on that surface area.
I
And
just
it's
asked you,
a
how do you know?
direct-
So, oh,
it's like a-
okay, so there
basically-
was no temperature involved.
Well, I didn't say that. I mean,
So I
that's
asked you then, how did your device know it was temperature or pressure? How did it figure it out?
I feel like that spring would move if it got hot or cold. When
Of course it would, Joe. Don't jump there just yet, Jeremy. Let's slow it down. Let's get 50 to tell us how his device knows whether it's hot, cold, or pressure. How did it figure it out, 50?
There's also a temperature monitor on the setup, so you have that specifically for it, chemo. And I can't walk you through complex engineering in a few minutes on a live stream. You're gonna have to take a little bit more initiative and do a little back end work on this one.
Why? It's your outrageous claim that your device knows the difference between pressure and temperature.
Sounds like that.
Timo,
The claim is yours.
How do you know the difference between pressure and temperature, 50? With your own body? How do you sense the difference? How do you know?
One feels like pressure and one feels like temperature.
I don't know. You tell me, chemo. Go put your hand on the stove.
I'm asking you how you know the difference between temperature and the difference between pressure.
Because I push on a stove really hard, I get one sensation. I put my hand on a stove that's hot, and I get a different sensation with the same amount of pressure. Different feelings. There you go. God, you're brilliant.
50, how do you detect the difference between pressure and temperature?
Sensation.
Sensation, yes. So what sensors are telling you whether it's pressure or whether it's temperature?
You want me to describe to you how our senses and our feelings of those senses.
So how did you translate that to your device?
Didn't translate that to my device.
So how did your device then? How did your device then now know the difference between temperature and the pressure?
Same method. I put my finger on a.
Moyak, I'm asking 50 here. Hold on a second, Moyak. Moyak, hold on a second, Moyak.
It's not only
yeah, but hold on a second, Moyak. I'm asking 50 if he knows the difference, because it's his point. You're kind of hijacking it a little bit, Moyak, right? Remember, you did say you didn't want to talk as well earlier on, and now you come back to derail the conversation. I don't know why. You want to make your mind up and decide whether you want to in or you're out, in or out. So, 50, this is the point. This is the problem. We've been told there's pressure. I understand the claim. That's fair enough. I accept you think this is a thing until we can kind of back it up. So we don't really have anything to back up the fact that there is atmospheric pressure, because obviously you need gravity. Obviously we haven't even reached that far yet in gravity. But we're trying to figure out if something's hot or cold and there's pressure at the same time, how do you separate the two? So it's not temperature, it's just pressure, or it's just pressure and not temperature.
Yeah, Chemo, I can't go through complex engineering with you. If you want to work through this sometime, maybe that's a possibility. But if you want me to explain to you the deep inner workings of exactly how a temperature sensor works, that's a little bit more complicated and takes a while to get to.
Right.
Now, the pressure sensor is simple, okay? That can be easily explained in just a few moments. Basically one sentence, like I did earlier.
Okay.
And, like I said, you're the only person I've ever come across, globe or flat, who says this. So it's a little hard to take you seriously.
Well, it's a little hard to take you seriously. You've just told me, oh, well, it's very technical and far advanced for us to understand the engineering of how they figured out temperature and pressure. Are you kidding me? Or are you being serious?
No, I have an entire book that goes through the history of the derivation of temperature and how you get to a standard. About
You've got an entire book, 50. Again, are you kidding me?
No, you want me to send you a copy?
No, thank you. I want you to explain how you were able to differentiate between the pressure and the temperature.
Through engineering, Chemo.
Through engineering. How do they do that in engineering?
What does that matter?
Well, it matters. Then we know if they're measuring just temperature or just pressure. Not pressure, not temperature.
You don't have an engineering background knowledge, so how would you
If you take your device into high altitude, where it gets colder and colder 50, how do you know they're measuring pressure, not temperature?
Different machines.
Forgive me, I'm trying to multitask here.
Take your time. I mean, this is one of the most difficult questions, like I say, for both globe and flat.
Oh, you don't have to talk while he's
very struggling to come up with a decent, competent answer that makes sense, right? Remember, I did tell you things can't have things on the flat Earth and make sense, right? Very important sentence, because everything that you know will not make sense on a flat Earth. Any of your calculations will not make sense on a flat Earth. Any of your devices are not going to make any sense on a flat Earth.
So while you're discussing this and he's not able to talk, I think it's a fair time for me to come in. You can tell pressure, as you're making a device, you have the difference between pressure and temperature is by touch. And you could say, put a lot of pressure on your finger, like let's say air pressure, and feel that the pressure is sensible. You put a thermometer in there and see that the temperature doesn't change. So you can say, ooh, that's pressure, not temperature. Then you can do it the other way around, leave the pressure the same, change the temperature, and you could say that that's temperature. Now you find a device that actually reacts to both of those conditions, or either of those conditions individually. And you can now have a pressure and a pressure sensor and a temperature sensor. Isn't that good enough for you, Chemo?
What did he say, 50? Did you hear a word he said? You didn't understand anything he said? No, of course not.
I didn't have any issues with anything he said.
What did he say then?
I'm not going to repeat what he said.
Exactly, I wouldn't repeat it either, because it's just a nonsense story that we don't need in this time of experiments. Right, 50?
Chemo, he's kind of explaining to you a trade that was used to build the modern world, engineering.
Yeah.
And the application of scientific knowledge, right? Look around you. I want you to tell me one thing you can see right now that wasn't given to you by the scientific knowledge base in engineering. Can you tell me one thing?
No.
No. So right, everything you use, everything you touch, typically, everything you interact with, unless you're living with the woods, has basically the history of the application of this knowledge within it. And you want to deny that when you're like, it's just all around you.
Well, let's start again, because again, you're going on some diatribe. So I said to you that you've got this low pressure next to high pressure. You said, oh, no, that's not our model. We have a gradient. So you tell me now how you were able to measure the pressure gradient, how you know this to be true, and obviously we can move forward. Or do you just believe it?
Sensor Chemo.
Yeah, but then I asked you, how do you know their sensor is not detecting temperature?
Because you can calibrate it.
Okay.
You can put it.
How do you stop the temperature from affecting your device?
Well, you wouldn't be able to completely negate the effects of temperature. You'd be able to account for them.
How? How do you reduce? How do you stop the cold or the heat affecting your device?
You don't stop it from affecting it. You account for the fact that it is affecting it.
Okay, so you turn your device on, the temperature affects it. Now what do you do?
You would calibrate it.
What, you just reset it back to 0?
You have multiple different methods.
So hold on. So you turn your machine on, it reads the temperature. You're saying recalibrate it back to 0, and then start to go up. Then it starts to go.
Thought we're talking about pressure.
Yeah. So you got your device. It's on 0. You turn it on. It starts to detect temperature. You reset it because you're saying, "Oh, I don't want temperature. I want pressure." You reset it. It's now back to 0. You go up. It starts to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But how do you know that's not temperature and not the pressure?
Because you can vary the temperature and see how it affects the pressure sensor.
Go on, listening. How?
It's not that complicated. Just the output of the sensor, right?
I've got my sensor in my hand. I'm on bottom of a mountain. Start to go up. It's getting colder and colder. How is this not affecting my device?
I didn't say it wasn't affecting it.
So whatever numbers that are reading on my device, how do I know it's not because of the temperature?
Because you account for it.
How is what I'm asking you. How do you account for it?
Because you have previously gone through cycles of heating and cooling your sensor and without changing the pressure and checking what happens to the output.
How did you increase the temperature without the pressure?
Well, I could use some sort of radiant heat source. That would work very well. Because that would work very well even in a vacuum.
I'm listening. So what happened? And you took your device, you heated it up without increasing the pressure, yeah?
Yeah, you can heat for God's sake. You heat it up, you cool it down. You know what happens to the output of the device with a change in temperature. You have both a pressure sensor and a temperature sensor in your instrument, so that the instrument can measure the temperature so that it knows what the output change will be from the temperature change when you look at the air pressure, if you wish to be that accurate with your readings. Of course, as we know that the temperature change, as we know that the temperature change isn't affecting the pressure particularly, mostly we probably wouldn't bother unless it's a really sensitive instrument. Unless we have really sensitive changes.
All right. According to ideal gas law, if you increase the pressure with no volume change, then yes, temperature will increase. So I don't know what the fuck you just said.
Well, expand the volume and normalize it. Problem solved, right? Easy.
It sounded like the last guy was saying there wouldn't be a temperature. I don't know what he was saying. It sounded like.
Well, I mean, yeah, yes. If you have a closed box with the contained volume, and you increase the temperature, you will increase the pressure. That doesn't mean that you can't account for that pressure change, or you can't change the volume, right?
Or I can even just put a heating element against the pressure sensor and just heat the sensor without heating the atmosphere around it.
Heat something in a vacuum.
Yeah, there's
I wasn't really looking for
a
debate or a discussion, really. I mean, I was just analysing what happened with Lemon and Jeremy, and how you were just gave up, and you had enough. And I was just looking at that, really. It turned into a discussion which I didn't expect.
You know why? Because when it comes down to it, Chemo, I mean, we're gonna end up winning this. So
yeah, I mean, I was just talking about, like, I think now it's like, as I said before, I was saying, do the flat earthers believe the ball? Like, I think we used to believe you. Like, yeah, we believe that you believe it's a ball. But I think the wider flat earth audience on the fences are like, they don't believe they're on a ball, like themselves. So if you don't believe it yourself, then how can you convince anyone else? You don't believe it yourself in the first place.
Yeah. Chemo likes to do these inflammatory things, and so does Jeremy. Like, we're winning, and Chemo with the you things. He really likes doing this to try and get your goat.
They're winning. They're the best flat earthers ever.
I mean, I'm just saying, like I say, it's just hard. Again, what I'm doing, I'm just giving an update. I think on the mood or on the feeling of the community, probably why it's not as active or as busy as what it once was, is because, like you say, we've heard your arguments 1,000 times. Like we hear them every single day, all day long, but they're not really backed with anything. It's just
you don't remember any of them.
Exactly right, Kimo. Well said. Well said, sir.
Yeah, it's well more just what they believe now. Or do they even believe
it? Because you're too fucking
Perfectly
stupid
said.
to listen to anything we say
The repetition
and
of the
try and
arguments,
understand.
it's incessant, right, Kimo?
Kimo, if you had a legitimate criticism,
Back the arguments,
you would
you're right.
be
Perfect,
you would be
perfect.
the first flat earther in the history of my life to ever hear a legitimate criticism come from. I've never heard a legitimate criticism come from a flat earther of our model ever.
But I mean, again, it's like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's dead hard not to be, you know, like, I don't know. But yeah, if that's what you think. But right now, I think if you were to put yourself in an environment where you are in a debate, you're going to do what you're doing now. And you're going to just tell us that there are others out there with expertise who have written a book that you don't understand. You know, we just don't get it. You know, which is fine, like I say, but I think that's going to grow old. That will last for another year or two. And then people will just decide, look, these will just have a belief. And do they even believe it? So, like I said, I used to believe you believed it, but I don't think you do now.
I think you're being a little bit disingenuous. Most flat earthers I talk with will ultimately say that the globe earth model in our science is convincing, right? That's what makes it so powerful, is it's logical, it's repeatable, and it's built essentially the modern world. The knowledge base that methodology has provided the modern world, right?
No, I mean, I've always stood by, right? I've always...
Hold on, we know this. It's a area that you can go into that's practiced today, engineering. It's a current trade, right? If you want to call it that. Right, all around the world, there's 240,000 mechanical engineers in the United States. Millions around the world. A trade you can go into that applies the scientific knowledge base to engineer real-world devices that become physical and are then the proof of the underlying principles, right? Like if I need to build a car engine, I need to know the gas laws. I need to know how compression ratios affect the way the engine works. I need to know how much energy these chemicals are dumping during combustion. I need to know stoichiometry to know the ratio of air to the chemical mixture. All of this stuff that you just want to poo-poo, it's just amazing to me. It's like I don't know how else to describe it, but you are living in the proof of what you deny, essentially.
Not just say.
Well, Chemo, I mean, I don't have a live demonstration set up. If you want me to
ask right now.
It's just a ploy on your
video.
If
I want to see.
It means sea lioning, Kimmel, and we're not going to do it. We're showing you nothing. So there.
You're breaking up a bit. I take it you mean video. You want a video.
Like if you name some out there. I'm not asking you to. Asking you that.
To be honest, it doesn't make that much sense when we're on a Discord chat, in a Discord voice chat. If you were at my house, You said, show me right now, be a little different. But you saying that over VC is a little.
House, and I said,
I would proceed to show you something in real life that basically, is evidence of what I was saying.
that's one of the Earth.
There you go. I just saw this, Chemo.
Asking what happens.
Look at the timestamp. That was right now.
Right now.
Well, Dr. Average Guy just showed a barometric pressure sensor on his phone. And you probably have a barometric pressure sensor on your phone as well. The new Apple Watch has a very precise one that they just released like yesterday. Or announced yesterday.
What did he do? What has he
He's showing
I took the phone from my head to my feet.
You keep on interrupting. Hold on. What has he got there? What's...
If you look on the left side, there's pressure. The units are pascals. And then on the right is time. It starts at 0 seconds and it goes to about 35 seconds. And it shows you a change in pressure of pascals, the unit pascals, over a time span.
How did he account for the...
It's in a house, climate controlled.
Most environments are climate controlled, right? If you're talking about over 35 seconds, you have to provide a reason why you would need to account for such a sudden change in temperature.
Nighttime, daytime, where was it exactly?
I was trying to tell you, but you told me to shut up.
Yeah, I want 50 to answer you. Experiment is all of you together. Explain it as well as you can.
Fair enough.
How did he account?
But the temperature didn't change.
How did he account?
You don't have to count for it if it doesn't change.
How do you know it did?
Because the phone has a temperature sensor also. Climate control, air conditioning. You want me to explain that one to you too?
Get the...
Correct. From what he said, he moved his phone from his feet to above his head.
From his...
I think that's what he said.
Pressure change, dimwit.
I mean, I imagine you can read the chart. And you already asked me this question. I don't know why you're asking me it again.
Asking you about... I've
looked at this kind of data myself. It's
actual.
Well, that's
See,
like
Chemo,
you
it's not
telling
called
me.
parenting when it's quoting established science, Chemo. It's not called parenting. It's called learning, and it's that because all of established science is repeatable. Meaning you can just do it yourself if you don't think it's true. So there is no refuting it or saying, oh, the Cavendish doesn't work and this and that. If you haven't done it and shown it doesn't work, then it does. It's that simple.
I mean, here we have a physical sensor. And you can make something like this in your home. You can make a mercury barometer in your house yourself. Like I said, I would be more than happy to maybe send you the material to do this. You can witness it for yourself. I mean, you denying...
I can do all that, but I don't know how to control.
Do you not have an air conditioning unit, Chemo? In your house? Is your home not climate controlled?
How that control?
I didn't say do it outside.
There's looking for outside without the container that have. How do you get the
Well, you just have you have atoms.
Can I just check that a non-airtight house is now considered to be a container? Is that right?
It's got bounce off.
Okay, fair enough. Just checking.
Chemo, you are on like another level, dude. With your denialism and your silliness.
Why are you struggling?
I'm not struggling to explain it.
Right, so
you're struggling to understand it.
So you've just went through. Now outside atmosphere, that pressure at the
exact same method, the exact same way you measured the pressure in the first place.
Open your front door. Then you're not in a steel container anymore, are you?
Yeah, there you go.
Chemo, your claim of the second law of thermodynamics. Simply that. If there is a pressure inside the house and we open the door, then that pressure must be outside as well.
Inside Moik's house. Outside. How did he get? Where did the pressure?
So you're now saying that outside the house and inside the house have different pressure at the same altitude.
I'm asking about outside.
Atmospheric pressure, Chemo. Our claim.
Model you have pressure. Where?
Atoms.
Atoms.
Or molecules.
Molecules. Atoms.
Yeah, whizzing around.
Yeah.
Weight of atoms.
Atoms and molecules around. What does that mean?
That's the origin of pressure.
A cloud is around that has.
Correct. Any gas, I mean that's what makes it a gas, right? Is the fact that it's moving around in relationship to the other molecules around it.
So these molecules are solid, is what.
I just said the opposite, Chemo. Gas.
Yeah, but molecules bouncing ball.
It depends on what scale you want to consider them, really.
How do they bounce?
A lot of purposes you can idealize them as that, yeah.
Yeah, now you.
Yeah, Chemo, we live in the real world. Things aren't black and white; they're shades of gray. There is no such thing as perfection, right? When it comes to any scientific model or anything in any sense of the real world, in reality, right? It's not black or white; it's shades of gray. So, yes, in a lot of situations, you can idealize them that way. No issue with that. That's how everything works.
Guessing?
Well, I have evidence for it working, right? Systems built on the knowledge of how it works.
How what works?
Pressure.
And you
pressure, energy, etc.
Like, have to show how the atmosphere. All you said is pressure. Not show pressure where. How did
Because the molecules in the gas have a velocity, and when they interact with other molecules or atoms, they transfer that momentum in a perfectly elastic collision, and that is the origin of gas pressure or air pressure, whatever you want to call it.
How do you know? We've been told. Yeah. Where are we?
Brownian motion.
Yeah.
You heard that?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Chemo's British, so Chemo would have done the Brownian motion experiment in school because you did that before the options phase in most schools. you will have done the smoke chamber and looked at the Brownian motion.
Chemo, just for giggles, while you chemo, just for one moment. Chemo, one moment for you. When you get a chance, just look at my post. I posted my barometer reading and my temperature reading over the same area. I showed you the pressure drops.
The idea is, I haven't said
atoms and molecules moving around, chemo. I did. I already said that. I can't show you a singular atom or molecule.
How do you know what you're talking?
I have evidence for what I'm talking about. Found basically, it's mountains of evidence, right? It's an inference, essentially, if you really want to be honest about it. But at this point, we have, essentially 1,000 lines of corroborating evidence that is in fact true. That the world is made up of things called atoms, and that they interact with each other, and they're essentially
everyone else.
Oh, chemo. Oh, chemo. Atoms means the smallest part of something that you can have.
They've heard.
No, but
we're asking for
chemo.
Part of that lie. That's asking out in the same. How can we move? Parrot.
Chemo. Your mic's clipping a little bit, chemo.
Chemo. I just do